Hello, we are back. So, good afternoon. Thank you for attending today. I'm Alexandre, one of the organizers of Require.lx, and we're proudly supported by Pipedrive and Single Store. For today, we have two amazing presentations, but first of all, I will go for this. So, telling about Require.lx, please join us in a meetup, site or app. If you join, sorry, I'm really nervous. So, if you want join with the organization, please send a message or talk with me or Leo. If you have some talks who want present formats or the ideas for moments like today, please reach us. Suggest cool ventures like Pipedrive. Thank you, Pedro Franco, for hosting us today. And your company would like to collaborate, please reach out with us. First of all, we will do some propaganda. We will have in December this event, GambiCon. This will be organized with one of our speakers. So 13 and 10, 13 and 10th December, we could have more information in GambiConf.com. Yes. Yes. .dev. GambiConf.dev. And partners are really important for doing this type of events. So please welcome our friends Pedro Franco, who will speak about Pipedrive.
So this is our first meetup with Require.lx. Thank you for the partnership. I'm just going to ask everybody here knew about Pipedrive, but I guess most people, I think, know about Pipedrive, right? You know? Incredible. Actually, for the new faces here, and I don't know, actually the presentation I'm going to do is actually one of the reasons I ended up joining Pipedrive 3 years ago, especially related to how our engineering and product works inside. And I hope you like. We'll move soon to a new office, soonish, to a new place. So this is the opportunity to meet our office, and I hope in a future meetup as well, you'll meet us in our new office later on in the year. And that's it.
Okay, and please reach out the Pipedrive Talks Lisbon. That happens sometimes in every month at meetup.com too. And that's it. We have some social media, so please reach out. In Twitter, we are Require.lx. We have a new channel on YouTube. And we are uploading our presentations. And we are online too, so we have live streaming right now. And if you want to get more information about our next meetups, please follow Require-lx in Meetup. So yeah, we are online. So if you want share on Twitter, LinkedIn, or something other social medias, please do this. Today we will have two amazing speakers. That's Pedro Franco talking about scaling of engineering teams, and our nice guest, next speaker, Bruno Macabeus, who will speak about Fluent, a localization system for natural sounding translations. So please welcome Bruno Macabeus.
So, Okay, let's start the first topic for the day, the Fluent language, a localization system for natural sound translation. And yes, a language for translation, for localization, probably you are wondering if it makes sense, and do you need it? And yes, you need it, and during this talk I will show you why Fluent is an amazing solution for this challenge. Okay, let's talk a generic history about a new project. You are developing a new site, but since it's a very beginning project, it's a very start point, you can support just one single language. So let's start by Portuguese, and you can hard code all strings on your code base. It won't be an issue, right? It's just one language. But you are looking for new markets, you are looking for new customers, and now you need to support two languages. You need to support Portuguese and English. Well, you need to do some changes on your code. You can, for instance, map all strings on this JSON file and get by the key of the message and put it on your code. You have some edge cases, some issues that you need to work around because Portuguese and English have different grammar, different styles, but okay, let's continue. Let's say that now you support one more language. Now you need to support Mandarin. But well, it will be very hard to do because it's a very different language. You need support now 3 JSON files, different keys, etc. Well, it can't scale. But if you are developing a software that will support just one language at all, from the beginning to the end, I will show why a proper localization system can be useful even in this simple case. And please, using JSON file for localization isn't a good idea. It can't scale, and in a short term, it will become a mess. Okay, before I talk the technical side, let's talk about your language, because you need to understand better what you are trying to solve. Well, we are developing let's talk about all the history about a new project. You are developing a system to manage the stock, and you need to show how many pencils there are in the stock. So you can have this JSON for the Portuguese version, count the pencils, and say the amount of the pencils. And you can have this very simple JavaScript code to get the message and replace the amount with the actual number. Okay, it works, but now you need to support English. Well, but in English we have two variants to the message, because you have one word for singular and other word for plural. And this JavaScript code won't work for this case. So you need to update the code, check the amount to get the proper message. But now the Portuguese version isn't working because you have two keys. You have one key for singular or the key for plural. So you need to update the Portuguese version with the duplicate the code to have a synchronous messages between the file, asymmetric messages. Okay, it's working for Portuguese and English, but now you need to support one more language. You need to support French, but we have some challenges because in French, 0 is singular. So you need to update again your JavaScript code to have a new condition and check if the language in French and the amount is 0 or 1, get the singular version. Otherwise, if the amount is equal to 1, get the singular. Well, it's become more complex, more harder to write and understand, but okay, let's continue. Let's say that you need to support a new language. Now not support Polish, but you have more challenge to solve because in Polish we have one word for few, amount. For instance, 2, 3, 4 is few, and another word if you have many, more than 5, for instance. Well, new code is becoming more complex for every new language is being added in your code. You need to find other solution for that. And if you are developing a system for just one single language, it can be used for a proper localized system. Let's say you are writing a dialogue with a very important message. You need to use the confirm that he wants to remove some files. Okay, so you want to say the message. Do you want to clear the file? You can use a workaround like this one, but it isn't so clear. You want to have proper message. You want to show, for instance, if there is no file to remove, show no file to delete. If you have just one file, do you want to remove this file? If you have 2 files, do you want to remove both files? If you have more files, do you want to delete this amount, 3 or 4 files? But to have these good messages, you need to have an ugly code, because you need to have these very long ternary conditionals. And I was talking just about the challenge, about the amounts, about the numbers, but you have more cases for gender, article, grammatical case, politeness, etc. So, okay, we was able to notice that we have many rules within each language, and we need to map these rules to your software. But how to do it in a scalable way without having this ugly JS code? Well, there's many solutions. One very, very old solution is the XLIFF. Okay, in short, it's just an XML schema like this one. And you can notice that it's a very verbose code, so normally use a software that generates this schema, this content. Okay, it's a very old format from 21. I'm not entering so much details about this schema. I'm just mentioning it because it's one of the Fluent inspiration. And another Fluent inspiration is the ICU message format. There is AI here. Well, you can notice that it's a very simple code, okay? And from this code plus these parameters, you generate this message to the user. So it's a good way, because you can have a real piece of code that has many variants plus some parameters for your JS input, use input, etc. to output a good message. But the ICO message format just generates a piece of code. And in a real software, you have a bundle with 1,100 messages. So to generate a bundle with many messages, there is some way to do it. One way, use ARB, Application Resource Bundle. Well, it's just a way to organize a JSON with many messages. So you have this message, you have this metadata to this message, etc. It's from Google, so it's a very popular in Flutter, okay? But, well, you are using JSON for that. And JSON was developed, think, to use on localization messages. So you have some advantage for that. One, for instance, JSON is a very popular format. We have many tools that integrate to write and read JSON. But you have some drawbacks. For instance, it can be very verbose. If you have many interpolation, it's very too hard to code reuse. And you don't have comments on JSON. Well, and how Fluent can help us? Well, there is this blog post with the launch of the first stable Fluent version. And I will highlight some points from this blog post. As you can see, it's from Mozilla. Fluent is a Mozilla language. So it was developed with the aim to solve their issues. And you can also take advantage to solve our issues. What issue Mozilla was trying to solve? Well, they need to support almost 100 languages. So Firefox faces many localization challenges, like the challenge that I mentioned at the beginning of this talk. And you can continue on the blog post, and they notice the following idea. There are many grammatical variations that don't map one-to-one between the languages. And they figured out a very nice solution for that. Asymmetric localization. It's a most important innovation for Fluent, and it's a very simple idea, but very powerful. So let's say you are developing a system that needs to support 3 languages: Japanese, English, and Polish, again. And you don't need to think about how to map the keys, or all the keys, among the languages. You can write the Japanese means that works well with Japanese, write to the English and write to Polish, think just one single language per time. Because Fluent creates a layer that abstracts it between your bundle file and the code. For instance, let's say that you need to write a tooltip that shows when you are close a tab, and you need to show how many tabs that will be closed. For Japanese, you can have this very simple message, okay? In English, it will be a little more complex because you have one variant if it's singular and other message if it's plural. But okay, you don't need to think about this variant in Japanese. And you can support the Polish again. You have 3 variants. One message if there is exactly 1, other message have a few, mean less than 4, and other message if there are more than 4. And it works. And you can call the proper message by you just code, just send the key of the message and the amount. On the Fluent website, there is this guideline with explain the syntax. The syntax is very, very simple. You can read everything in just 15 minutes. And I want to highlight some points for the documentation. Okay, it's the hello world. Okay, you have this message with English, and on below you have the message in Portuguese. Both are the bundle files from Fluent, and you can call the message by just code like this one. You can have variables, okay, if you want to have some interpolations. So you have welcome user, bem-vindo user. You can send the parameters by this way. I will explain more details the code in a few slides. And you can have selectors. It's a very similar to ICO message format. You can send the points in English. You have just one message, welcome. In Portuguese, you have one message if the user is female or if the user is male. And you can check it on the JavaScript. You can send a new parameter that is a string that you match with the selectors. And it's just for Portuguese. You don't need to think about it in English. You can also have selectors for more user cases. For example, in English, the articles are very different from the articles in Portuguese. In English, you have a. In Portuguese, you have uma, and uma again. So it's useful for this case as well. And the resource will be a string in the JS. Selectors are also useful for numbers, because Polish again, you have 3 variants and you have JS code. You have a variant if you have 1, few, or amount. On JavaScript, you can create a new bundle, send the code of the language, PL in this case, and the Fluent, you check with the Unicode table how Polish works, and you can notice the following. 1, you map here, you map this part, because you have 1 from the category, 1 from the selectors, and 1 from the amount that you are sending on the parameters. You map with the few again, and you are sending 2. 2, you check on the table, that's called the few, and you map here. The same for 5. 5, you map with the many. For the table, you map here, many, and it works. You can also have code reuse, reference message that you are created before. For instance, you have a menu called store, and you have a tooltip for this menu. So it will interpolate with the previous message. It's a good code reuse. We also can have attributes. It will be more, I will explain more details about how attributes work in the next slides, but in short, it's useful if you want to fetch one message together other messages. You can also have functions. It's useful for numbers, to format numbers. I have other functions as well. And other very useful feature is comments, because you can have comments for the license of the code. You can have comments explain the purpose of this whole file. You can have comments separate the sections of the file. You have one section for the global message, one section for the creation page. You can have sections for the login, to log out, etc. And you can have comments for exactly one message, explain the parameters, for instance. And okay, Fluent is just the format, it's just the language, it's just the domain-specific language. We need to have a client to use it on your code base. You have official client from Mozilla to Python, you have to Rush, of course, and to JavaScript. And during this talk, I will use JavaScript as example because a good kickstart to understand how it works. So you have the package Fluent Bundle, is a vanilla solution. You have Fluent React, both are maintained by Mozilla. And you have community packages as well as IAT Next. It isn't Fluent first, but it supports Fluent. So let's see how each package works. You have this code work to Fluent Bundle. You need to import the package and the content as well from Fluent. You can create a new resource instance and create a new bundle, send the name of the language to match with the Unicode table, and you can add the source code to the bundle, and you can start using it. You can get the message hello from the Fluent and match the attributes or match the variables to the message and output it. It will output Olá Macabeus. You can also have Fluent React. All the source code that I will show here is it's a source code in use from production by Mozilla. You can check here the source code. It's just a simplified version of the code to fit the slide. Okay, but to check it in real case, look at this repository. But okay, you have this code from Fluent React. It normally works by using elements. You have the element localized that you send the ID of the message that you look on the Fluent source code, and it will replace the shield of the component with the message. It's how it normally works. But if you have a component with all the component, it will replace the message from the shield component, like this one. You can also have interpolations, like this example, because you have one A to interpolate with the message. So you can use this property to do it. You can also have attributes. One example about how to use attributes. We have a button, and we to replace and we translate the title of the button. So you have one message with this attribute, and this value will be used here with the title. And you can also have a message with attribute and one direct message like this one. It's useful if you want to translate both the shield of the button and the title attribute. And if you want to have some message that isn't a component, like a alert, for instance, that's not in JSX, you can use the hook use localization, but it's just for the edge cases like this one. You have other packages like React IAT Next. It isn't Fluent first, but look for the documentation. It can use Fluent as well, but the API is very different because it normally uses the hook, use translation that returns the T, and you can use the T with the ID and send parameters. And on the edge cases, you can use the trans component. It's useful for more complex component, interpolation, etc. And and of course you have packages for many other languages, frameworks. You have package for .NET, for Elm, Fluent Dart, Fluent Vue, etc. They are community packages. Okay, who is using Fluent? Okay, well, Mozilla, of course, they are migrate from the old localized system to the new one using Fluent, you can look for this table from this chart. How is the migration? You have all the libraries use it. If I code if you rush, probably you know this framework, Poem framework. It's a web framework, and the built-in solution is Fluent. You also have this open source game. It's a very old and big open source game written using .NET or C#, and they are migrated to Fluent as well. And you can look in the GitHub for more packages that are using Fluent, from Fluent.js, Fluent Vue, Fluent.net, etc. You can learn a lot by looking at all the codes. Okay, furthermore, if you want to have a taste about how Fluent works and test the syntax, check the parameters, etc., you can use this playground. It's good to have the kickstart. If you are working a big company, you can use this from Mozilla's localization platform. It's very useful to empower non-developers on the translation flow. I have some personal projects like this one, Fluent TypeScript. It's useful if you want to have type safe on the localization messages. It checks the ID of the message, it checks the attributes. I have other personal projects. It's called the VS Code Fluent. It's the VS Code extension to integrate with Fluent. It has many features such as syntax highlight, go-to definition, and it can show the errors on the fly. And a very useful feature is extract to Fluent files. You can select a message and call the code action extract to Fluent files. You can select a group or create a new group. In this case, I add on products. You can type the key of the new message, button by, and on the fly, it will replace the code selected with the call the function and adds the new message on all the Fluent files. It's very useful and can save a lot of time. And I have, while I was developing this VS Code extension, I noticed that write tests for VS Code extension was a very, very bad. And so I wrote this Dash environment VS Code extension. This talk is the subject for a future talk in a new meetup, okay? But if I create a VS Code extension, you can check this project. It's very useful to have a good test quality. And I was talking about my personal technical projects. I also have a community projects. I am organizing GambiConf. It's an event focused on crazy idea, personal projects. You have talks. You have is the event that he was talking before. YouTube in Portugal and online as well. You have talks about create a new programming language, hack a satellite. You have talks about many subjects focused on personal projects. You can also follow on Twitter. It's the same name, GambiConf. And that is. Thank you. You can check my GitHub, my Twitter, and thank you.
So thank you, Bruno, for the amazing presentation. Probably will be very useful when you are making our world-class application. This type of application and functionality will be interesting to use in our project. We'll pause for 2 and 3 minutes to try to set for the next speaker, and see you
Hey everyone. So thank you very much, Macabeus, for the talk. I think everybody learned a bit more about the localization systems and new tooling. And this talk is that I'm going to make is actually not the technical one, but more about processes and how actually Pipedrive organizes itself inside the engineering department. So my name is Pedro. People most call me by my last name, Franco. And I want to do this talk because across the years, Pipedrive, since it scaled since 12 years ago, it actually changed a lot in the way it works, both from a technical perspective and both from the software delivery perspective. So I wanted to show a bit about our learnings and a bit also about our pitfalls and how we got where we are currently. And this is a twofold presentation because I think it's important for the people that don't know Pipedrive to know a bit about the history, about the company itself. So basically, Pipedrive was founded at 2010 in Estonia by 5 Estonian guys. And started with one office in Tallinn, Estonia. And now we're currently 10 offices around the globe. And we have 4 engineering offices. So one here at Lisbon, at Tallinn, Tartu, and Riga. So it's our 4 engineering offices. And actually, the Pipedrive customers are all around the globe. So we're more than 100,000 customers worldwide and more than 170 countries. And actually, Lisbon wasn't our first office. It all started in Estonia. And the Lisbon office came by in 2017, and it started with only one person at the time. And since then, we've already run 3 rounds of investment with $90 million US dollars, and we reached the unicorn status at the summer of 2020. Also, and I think this slide is already updated because every time that I do it, the number of employees increases. So I think that we already passed the 1,000 employees, but nowadays we're at least most in 900. And something that I really like in Pipedrive, not about engineering itself, is that we're actually multi-background and multicultural in, I would say, in most of our teams. And we have people from more than 32 countries. And basically, in sum up, what is Pipedrive? Is a cloud-based CRM platform. And what Pipedrive tries to achieve is that to be the #1 and the clear choice for being the sales platform for salespeople and sales teams, but especially for small businesses, where Pipedrive mainly focus on. And basically, I wanted to show a small video about Pipedrive for the people that don't know. Oops. Let's do it.
No matter how much experience you have selling your product, Pipedrive will make it easy, bringing you better, more engaged leads 24/7, so you can focus on the right people at the right time and convert them to deals in your sales pipelines. And that's where the real magic happens. You can start simple or customize your pipelines in stages to visualize your process, no matter how many steps it takes to close that deal. Because Pipedrive's interface is flexible, focused, and unusually easy to use. No, seriously, we're kind of famous for it. Every call and email are automatically tracked, giving you a transparent view into the past and future of every sale. And you can say goodbye to repetitive tasks like sending routine follow-up emails. Workflow automation can do it all, which frees up your time to gather insights into your business and measure performance against set goals. And don't you worry, Pipedrive will help you every step of the way, with award-winning customer support, educational videos, and a whole community of salespeople and marketers you can learn from and grow with. Because Pipedrive was built by actual salespeople, which means it wasn't just built to manage your sales, it was built for you, the salespeople and marketers pivotal to any business. Pipedrive, designed to keep you selling.
I think it's good enough. It was a selling for workflow automation, in case you didn't notice. I was making some propaganda for it. But basically, we talk about the history of Pipedrive, but I think it's also important to know a bit about engineering itself and to understand actually how big we are. I would say that engineering is has the biggest influence inside Pipedrive nowadays, where the engineering department is 50% of the company, and it's including developers, DevOps, and platform. And just developers itself, it's more or less 1/3 of the whole company. And currently Lisbon, that started in 2017, we're at 33 Lisbon engineers, and we're looking to grow the team until 38 until the end of the year. And when I say we go big, I'm not joking. Pipedrive actually does more than 100 deployments a day. And I think this year, most probably, it's going to pass 150 by the rates of it. And that means that we actually deploy multiple times to production every day and across multiple locations. So this is not something that many companies do. And many companies do like the concept of releases and release weekly or monthly, or have release managers or release nodes. There's nothing like that in Pipedrive. Basically, we assume continuous delivery, and every time we close a given development, we end up deploying to live afterwards. And our network of microservices is actually quite complex. There are many software houses that I see that have less than 100 microservices, and they think that's a lot when they say it. And currently in Pipedrive this year, we achieved more than 700 microservices. And currently we support 4 languages. Mainly JavaScript and TypeScript for most of them, what we do nowadays. We have some services in Go as well for more specific use cases. That's what we have. And as Pipedrive, the first MVP that was built in PHP by the founders. So we still have a microservice built in PHP, but we don't build new microservices with it anymore. And also, as we basically Pipedrive is a product that is accessible worldwide, we have 6 deployments locations where we deploy the product. 5 of them are customer-related regions, which basically has actually customer data, and 1 of them we deploy tools that we use for our internal usage. And just to mention a bit about the stacks itself that we use. So for front end, we use mainly React for all the services, and some of the stacks we use GraphQL for data fetching. We actually are a software house that uses full stack TypeScript. So basically, our both micro front ends and microservices use TypeScript, and we have a huge focus on testing. And in terms of front end, the main tool that we use is Cypress for functional tests. For backends, as we're full TypeScript, we use Node and TypeScript itself. Some of the services are built in Go. And for some specific case that we need caching, we actually use Redis for it. And for database storage, we use either MySQL or CouchDB, depending a bit on the use case that we want. And as we have, I would say, really complex microservice architecture, we use a lot of event-driven systems. And our weapon of choice is Kafka. For DevOps in infrastructure, we have everything in containers that are orchestrated and deployed in Kubernetes. Our deployment pipelines are mainly in Jenkins, and we have our infrastructure mostly in a private cloud that is called Rackspace, and we have use specific service from AWS that we need for specific business cases. And we have our own infrastructure automated. So many companies still do the infrastructure manually, but everything we do, we have everything in Terraform. And this was mostly to give an overview of actually the engineering itself. But I think the most important, and I think one of the things that makes Pipedrive more different than others, is actually the way that the engineering teams work. So in the typical engineering team that I see in most companies, and actually it was like that I worked before in my previous jobs, we worked in what a concept that is called generally teams that generally work on Scrum. I would say most of them, Scrum or Kanban. And actually, we did a bigger organizational change across time that is changed to tribes. And basically, this is more a historical context of what happened. So, Pipedrive since 2013 and 2018 basically worked on a team model. And what the team model is. Basically, we'll have software teams that will be responsible for a part of the product. And it will be made, I would say, roughly 6, 7 engineers have a product manager allocated to it, a product designer, have a team lead that would do also a bit of the role of engineering manager itself. Could have other engineering profiles, we could say, if that was needed. And this team was quite small and would be responsible for one big feature in Pipedrive and one small one at most. And the objective of teams would be they should be as independent and have all the profiles needed to be able to deliver that specific feature inside Pipedrive. But we got some problems. And actually some of the problems that the team models appeared through time were actually some of the problems I saw from my career in different places before joining. And when I started looking into Pipedrive, I resonated with some of them. And one of the problems is, I would say one of the dilemma is the maintenance dilemma, which is basically before, when Pipedrive worked in this model of teams, the teams were so small that what happens? If you're developing for something new, it's very easy to just speed up and build everything as fast as possible. The teams have actually really big velocity. But there's a big problem, is that when you actually start building stuff and shipping to production, is that you have to start maintaining what goes to live. And what happens in the team model is that the maintenance work starts to pile up, and the velocity of teams starts to go down significantly, until the point that what happens is that a significant amount of work starts being maintenance, and let's face it, no developer wants to do maintenance for their life. It's not the most exciting part of the job. Another one that I also saw a lot in previous teams that I've met, and it's probably the one that I don't like the most, is the dependency dilemma, which basically these small teams, imagine, if you want to deliver something simple, it's not hard. The team can deliver and doesn't depend on other teams because it's relatively simple. If you want to deliver something that's actually more complex, what happens? You don't depend on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams. What happens? There's no ownership of what needs to be delivered. There's multiple stakeholders that need approval, leading to longer delivery times and actually frustration that things don't go forward. Third one, that many people don't notice and goes in the long term. It's a knowledge silo dilemma that basically as people work on these close teams and work with the same people across the year, so 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, what happens? Is that only those people get to know that part of the product and nobody else in the company does. And that brings a lot of problems. One, it creates more silos, both culturally and technically, because that person gets out of the company. Who knows about it? Nobody. The person wants to go to another project. Oh, no, you can't go. You're the only person that knows. So this causes a lot of issues when these type of problems happen, and it's promoted with the Teams model. Also, I would say the most problematic in the career perspective is the opportunity one. So as developers end up being more locked in the projects that they're having more limited room to jump to new projects and to try new things. And also, as in the smaller teams, we had the team lead figure that worked as manager as well. We had a lot of percentage of managers per engineering headcount, made that developers had less opportunity to actually try leadership roles. So it was very rare for a developer to actually try to lead a given project or a given feature. So the opportunities were very limited. And these dilemmas were okay until it started to be a problem. So what happened at 2018 is that we had the first negative growth in R&D. R&D, it's the departments at Pipedrive that includes engineering, product, and design. So it's the first time that we wanted to grow fast, but we couldn't. It was stopping us. It was the first year of negative growth. And this was the time that the company had to think, stop, and plan how it could change the course of action, because it was not an option to do anything. And what was done is that many people were included across the company to try to figure out how they could solve the turnover. And actually, with some months of planning, they actually adopted a new model in order to to tackle these previous pain points. And they tried to identify what actually developers, product managers, designers actually wanted in the delivery. So basically, teams wanted to have more different challenge for developers. They wanted more space in order to try new things. Actually have a faster pace of development. Actually also, what happened a lot is that in teams, you're being locked into a different project and you'll be like assigned to this project. So 1 year or 2 years can come by, you're in the project, and then someone actually allocates you to another project and you don't have a big say about it. So people wanted an ability to choose actually what things they want to do. Actually, the department wanted to fail fast, because at the time some delivery times were taking so long that actually people had more afraid to actually go faster. And in the end, we want to actually deliver to our clients at a higher velocity with high quality. So these were the requirements, and we reached tribes. And basically, what is this? Some people may know the word tribes from the popular article that was published by Spotify some years ago. But the word tribes, the only similar things with the Spotify model is just the name. Everything else is completely different. Spotify tried to implement the tribes model many years ago. What happened is that they failed miserably. They actually didn't go through with it, as they didn't see any returns from it. And actually, Spotify published a book at the time about their failures. And Pipedrive was, when it was adopting the model, actually look at the failures and what they propose to change, and use it to build their own framework, which Pipedrive is called what we call internally the Pipedrive Agile Framework, which is basically a new way to organizing engineering teams and engineering departments in order to promote higher velocity of teams, more ownership, and more freedom of choice. So basically, this is like the current scenario that I was showing previously. So it's just standard teams that will have 7 to 8 people. And what happened in the model is, boom, we went to this. We changed from a model from a small scale to what we call tribes. And tribes are, in really simple terms, like really big teams. So it could be from 20 to 50 people. So it really depends on the tribe and their requirements. I would say the sweet spot would be 20 to 30 people, or the optimal for maximum efficiency in engineering, product, and design. And similar to teams, tribes should be as independent as possible and autonomous in order to deliver something, but they are much larger in size, and the way they operate internally is completely different in order to solve these pain points that I mentioned before. So basically, just to show how the tribe is constituted. So I would say a more general tribe is constituted of 20 engineers that is led by an engineering manager, has 3 product designers that are led by a group, the design manager, 3 product managers led by a group product manager, and can have also, I would say, some smaller profiles that are needed for some sort of delivery. For example, product research for making competitor analysis, market analysis, etc. Or data analysts as well to gather data to support better business decisions. And the main takeaways of how tribes are constituted is that they all should have a clear purpose of why they should exist. They have ownership from a specific problem space that they want to solve. And they have full ownership, both technically or the problems that they want to solve in that problem space. So all the services and libraries that are owned by the tribe is responsible for end-to-end delivery and to end-to-end maintenance of them. Also, the purpose of tribes is that we need to have all skills in one place. And what this means is that if I want to deliver value X, I need to depend the minimum of other related external entities or departments or teams or profiles or whatever, those need to, if those are necessary to solve problems in this problem space, they should be in the tribe. And the way the tribe is organized is actually quite different from teams internally. And we have the concept of what I'll show next, what we call the launchpad and mission teams, that are the two most important concepts in tribes. So basically, this tribe of 20 and 50 people, let's try to organize things, because let's face it, it's 30 people, 40 people, they won't work all together, it's impossible. Nobody would be able to work. So basically what we have is this. A tribe can have one launchpad, and this, all tribes must have it, and can have multiple mission teams. So basically, not all of them work together, but we have smaller teams inside the tribe that have really specific goals, and they work in cohesion. And each of these teams, either the launchpad team or the mission team, has what we call a key engineer, that is either the launchpad lead that leads the launchpad team, or the mission lead that leads the missions. And basically this person is a person that is elected by the tribe members in order to lead the team for a specific period of time. After that time is over, that we'll see how it expires, that developer returns to its original engineering role, introducing a rotational leadership. And just starting with the launchpad team, basically, in the launchpad, everybody that is not allocated to a mission is in this team. And what is the goal of it? Why does it exist? Pipedrive, as other SaaS companies, needs to run 24/7. So we have clients all around the world, Pipedrive can be down, never. So the goal of this team is keep the lights on. So it's responsible for managing and solving existing bugs that appear and dealing with maintenance of services. Also investigate possible problems that customers might have, or even improve the current monitoring and alerting systems. Also is a team that is most responsible for improving quality of the current services and look for proactively opportunities to do so. Also, when possible, to do some product improvements. We're working on smaller product-related tasks into the services. And it's a place where it's easier to do R&D, which is basically technical researches for future developments and features. So basically, this team is the cornerstone of the tribe. Everything else, and people that are in the mission, then we'll see how missions are actually created. The missions are the second most important concept inside the tribe. And basically a mission can be defined in a really simple terms. It's a project that lasts 1 to 3 months and has a real defined business goals that has to achieve. And basically in a mission there is the concept that we call the mission team, that are the people that participate in a given mission, and has all the people that are necessary to be able to execute that mission. If it's needed to be a product manager, a product designer, 2 front-end developers, 2 back-end developers, that's the constitution of the mission team. And that's more or less the typical format that we have. And as we saw previously, each mission has this key engineer. It's called the mission lead, which is elected by tribe members when we need to start the mission. And when this mission starts, I think these are the most important key aspects of it. So when we want to fulfill a specific business goal, the mission team has complete technical ownership by the decisions that it makes. So what architectural choices are made, product-related decisions, smaller technical decisions, they are the owners of it. Also, ways of working. So from previous companies that I've worked in, the ways of working are actually pretty similar. Like they would just use Scrum or just a really slight deviation of it. And in Pipedrive, how we work in missions, it's actually quite different. And mission teams have a full autonomy of how actually they should work together. So imagine that 5 people join a mission. They actually decide what is the best way for them to organize themselves and decide how they'll actually work. If they want to do the Scrum, they do Scrum. If they want to do Kanban, they do Kanban. If they want Scrumban, they can do. If they want to do no tasks, they do no tasks. If they want to do pair programming, they do pair programming. The only thing that is important is to accomplish the business goals. And the mission team, when is assembled, it's mainly focused on delivering this specific goal and not worrying about bugs or maintenance or support. So it's a team that is laser focused on this and works isolated, I would say isolated from the rest of the tribe in these matters that are more related to maintenance and support of services. Also, one thing that I see that is quite different from other software companies is actually how projects at the end get delivered. I see, like, I don't know, projects that take like 3 months, 4 months, and there's no deployment to production. They just pile up everything, and at the end they end up making some sort of release, or in 6 months they do some sort of bigger release of what was built. In Pipedrive, everything that is deployed, regardless if it's on a mission or in the launchpad, everything is continuously delivered to live. And what this means is that everything that ends up being developed and merged to master is automatically sent to production. So there's no concept of release management or release notes or whatever. And but for example, if you're in a mission developing a new feature, that feature won't be available for customers. What we do is that we develop under specific, what we call feature flags, that hide those features from the live customers. And when we roll out at the end a given feature, those features will be enabled. Also, in the company, there's 3 types of missions that we do. 1, exploratory. And these are more related to research missions that are focused in validating assumptions or really big unknowns that we do. So like stuff that we have no clue how to do, and we actually need a full mission in order to understand how we can do it and develop it. And there are scenarios that actually need to do this. But the most common is what? It's product missions. So a product mission is driven by a product manager, and it involves in either building a new feature from scratch or building upon an existing product feature where actually new features are delivered to customers. At the third category, it's basically technical missions, which are basically driven by engineers. And it can vary in many cases. It can be platform improvements that we need to do to the product, more DevOps infrastructure missions, or even technical improvements that we actually need to refactor or improve our code bases in order to actually unblock future development. And this is very pretty, how missions go, but how actually missions are created. So there's the launchpad that is a permanent team that needs always to exist, but missions don't always exist. At a given time point, a tribe may have 0 missions, 1 mission, 3 missions. It also depends on the number of people we have available. And how does a mission appear? So a mission appears and all starts with a product idea. So imagine that we have a product mission and a product manager has an idea. Let's say that the product manager wants to increase 10% of the signups in Pipedrive, if that was actually possible in 2 months. So basically, a product has this specific idea, and what it does, it looks at the strategical value of it and at the customer feedback that is collected in their product area, and it concludes with their engineering counterparts if actually that's feasible to increase the 10%, and actually how much it's going to cost from engineering. So it's going to take 6 months, 1 month, or it's even impossible in some cases. So after there's this consensus about the idea, what happens is that we kickstart the next phase, which basically is the product designer is chosen for the mission. in order to execute this idea, and the mission is elected. So basically the tribe do elections to decide actually who will be the engineer that will lead us in order to fulfill this business goal. And this is also a different way of other companies work, where most leaders are either assigned, but most people that actually will participate in the mission vote on the people they want to lead us to solve the problem. And the third step is actually the mission is pitched. And what is a pitch? We have an event every Tuesday in Pipedrive that is called Pitching Tuesdays. And it's an event that is streamed to all the company, including developers, where, for example, Daniel here, it's a product manager and has this idea of increasing 10% of the signups. An incredible idea. Basically, he goes to this event and pitches this idea to the whole company. Oh, I want to increase 10% of the Pipedrive customers, gonna bring a lot of revenue. And basically, and says, okay, to execute this mission, this idea, I need 2 front-end developers, 2 back-end developers in order to execute it. And what happens when this pitch is over is that we enter candidate phase. So developers look at the pitch that was done, and in Pipedrive we have an internal tool that we call the missions tool, where we have all the lists of missions that are being prepared. And imagine that Alexandre here is a front-end developer and looks at this mission and says, damn, this looks nice. And can go to the missions tool and sees that the mission needs actually front-end developers, and it can apply to that mission. So this is a reverse mindset of how things worked in I would say in previous teams that I've been, where okay, you're allocated to a project and you're there X amount of time. If it's that 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you don't know. And the person will relocate you to another project when needed. And in Pipedrive, actually, engineers choose the projects that they want to actually participate in. So this is a reverse mindset that actually it's one of the things I like most in our framework. After everybody applies, Alexandre, Karina apply both as front-end developers to the team. Basically, then the mission lead looks at all the candidates that have applied and selects who actually is going to enter in the mission according to the profiles that are needed. After that, team is assembled, they're all together, and mission is launched. And then the mission takes 1 to 3 months to execute. And if everything goes well, our business goals are achieved, and our product manager achieved 20% of signups. So great praise for him. And at the end, what happens is that the mission lands. And what does it mean that the mission lands? It means that actually what was developed is actually already in live, but hasn't been rolled out to live customers because the feature is hidden. So basically, the mission will land on the launchpad, and what that means is that what was developed on the mission will start being rolled out to the customers across time. If it takes 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month, it really depends on the mission and the requirements for it. But there's something that is the mission landing checklist, which basically it's our safeguard requirements for the missions that are ending. So there's a lot of requirements, but I would say these are the most important ones. So every mission that finish, all service and new code base must have proper monitoring and alerting set in place. We can't send things to live that have to be up 24/7, and we don't know even if the system is down. Another one, high test coverage. So in Pipedrive, all services need to have at least 80% coverage in order to be rolled out. So basically, we have a high requirement of the code base need to be rock solid, and even if the estimate of the mission, like imagine that we give an estimate of 2.5 months, if we need more time to actually make it production ready, it's okay to extend. If it takes more 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, because it will save time doing things right before releasing than doing afterwards. And there are two steps, something that some developers don't like, documentation as well. So when you're making the landing, 3 types of documentation need to exist. Technical one, because the things that you develop on the mission, other developer will have to touch eventually, or will have to learn, or have to troubleshoot. So need to have the technical documentation about it. Needs to have the product documentation about the functionalities, and also support, which probably is the most important one. Because in Pipedrive we have a team of support engineers that basically are responsible for all the first safeguard to determine when a customer complains about a given bug or something is not working. Support engineers troubleshoot the problems first, and they need to have actually the correct documentation and troubleshooting guides in order to understand how they could help the customer beforehand. And final step, it's a launchpad approval. And because the mission will land and be rolled out, and the launchpad members will be responsible for actually supporting it. And the launchpad lead needs to give the seal of approval, where the launchpad lead actually reviews and approves the mission is according to the standards of the company in order to be landed. And all the missions that don't have this approval, they can't land until they make the changes that make it landable. So I talked a bit about how actually tribes work internally and how each of the teams that on the launchpad or the mission teams actually work. But externally at company level, how it actually it works. So we want the tribes are as independent as possible and have autonomy in order to work in their problem space. But we make alignments at company level about the goals that each tribe needs to achieve, and they must be heavily correlated with the goals of the company, because in order to they move fast, they need to be independent, but we need to steer them into the right direction. And just to sum up, I just wanted to show some of the things I believe are some advantages of the current framework that Pipedrive has. And I would say most of the pitfalls that I saw were or heavily mitigated by the framework or were actually solved. So one, definitely increased focus. Where mission teams are actually focused in accomplishing the mission goals and nothing else. So they work independently, isolated, and they are not worrying about the bugs or maintenance, and avoiding a lot of the context switching hell of having to work in different ways, and they can be laser focused in achieving the goals. Less knowledge silos. This one, most people don't realize at the short term, but at the long term, it actually brings a lot of dividends to the teams. As engineers get applied to missions they actually want, what actually happens is that, imagine Alexandre and Karina participated in the first sign-up mission. But in the next one, Alexandre won't join and Karina will join with someone else. Karina will learn new things from new people that she'll work with. She'll most probably learn new ways of working and learn differently. And also, the new person that will join Karina will also learn from her in the next mission about the given services, the given stack, and making that across time, the knowledge ends up being shared and less silos are created either inside the team culturally or technically. One that I think is very important is that, and it was one of the biggest concerns at the beginning, is that the framework brings more challenges and opportunities for the ones that want it. And in the previous model of teams, engineers were more locked into specific projects, and as a result they had much less opportunities to either choose new projects they want to work with, or new technologies, or different people that they want to work in, or even completely different features. People may want to, and I've seen many cases, they work on platform and want to work on more product-facing features. Or people work more in front-end and want to go to full stack, and they change the type of missions they apply. So it gives more opportunities and makes the developer, I like to use this phrase, a bit on the steering wheel of their career more. That I didn't felt in previous companies I've been before. And one more is related to it. Actually, the framework promotes more leaders and less managers. So because as the engineers of the Launchpad or the mission are actually elected by tribe members, it gives opportunity for engineers to try leadership roles, but don't need to commit to them at the long term. I've seen actually even some friends of mine that were high performers and actually were promoted fast. They ended up in leadership roles and leading teams. And what happened is that they entered leadership too soon. And they were like, yeah, 1 year, 1.5 years leading a team. What happens afterward? Oh, I'm sick of this. I want to return to coding. It's too soon for it. So I know many cases about that. And actually in Pipedrive, you're able, as the role is rotating, that you have X time of experience in leadership, and you can always be developer again and just do purely engineering work. So it works for the people that actually want to lead, but also people that don't want to lead, and that's fine. The people are different, and they want different things on their career, and we allow that. Just now to sum up, also the framework introduces more ownership and engagement, because as a tribe owns a problem space that is bigger, because it has more members, the number of dependencies is much less, making the tribe with a higher product velocity in delivering features. Also, in the given framework, as the Launchpad and the missions work in different contexts and have different goals, it also makes them more focused to have more time for improvements. And this space is given more from the technical and personal improvement point of view. And I think that's it. Sorry for taking so long. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you guys learned something new and that you liked as well. And they tell me I have to show this slide that we are hiring. So this is also so